we ever gonna do something stupid, and just because, why not, right? So I've got this chair out here. It's Pronto. I forget the model number. M30, something like that. Anyways, it's the super common like little miniature. It's not quite a scooter chair, but it's like somewhere between a rehab chair and not. Anyways, here it is. I've taken the plastics off of it. If you notice, it has these wee baby tires on it. I've already tuned this chair up, so it's like decent at soccer. But going faster would be better, right? And what's an easy way to do that? Bigger tires. So I've already done preliminary checking on this because I don't want to film this for no reason, but check this out. What do you think? Yeah? Is that going to result in safety? I'm pretty sure it will. That's not quite double, but 3/4 at least. Actually, let's get fancy and use our tape measure here. One-handed tape measure operation. See, how's this lock work? There we go. Factory tires, about 10 inches. Aftermarket, like 14. I don't know, something about math, they're larger. I'm gonna roll this thing outside because it's a ridiculously nice day. And last I checked, there's no flash mobs in my driveway, so we should be good. Oh, by the way, interesting note before we roll that thing out there. I went to the grocery store late last night. I found one that was actually open past 11 p.m. And dude, seriously, grocery store shopping right now is epic. There's nobody in the store, but the people that are, they see you and turn around and go the other way. There's nobody reaching over my head. There's nobody getting too close to me. Like, I'm one of those people at the check stand that I get the stink eye quite a bit because when someone's checking out, I don't go into the lane. I stay at the end and I wait for them to clear out because I don't want people near me. They actually put tape on the ground at all the check stands that is like, I don't know, 6 to 10 feet apart or something. And I guess they're expecting people to stay in their little boxes. So, I mean, I'm not making fun of what's going on, but like, seriously, what's happening with the distancing or whatever, I'm really liking it. And I'm hoping it sticks around long after whatever this is gone. Now, I usually always fist bump people anyways. And I'm hoping that doesn't start to be seen as like, oh, you're doing that because, you know, whatever. I'm no Howie Mandel, but I do not like people, just randos out there touching my stuff. I've been working on fighting it, but if I'm at a McDonald's or somewhere, or actually like Five Guys where they'll hand you your food not in a bag sometimes, if they're trying to hand it to me at a counter that's too tall to reach, I'll say, hey, can you bring that around? Sometimes another customer in the store will just grab my food and hand it to me. And I can't do that. I have to make them like rewrap it or remake the food or whatever. So that's one of those weird little things that, well, again, I'm not trying to get into all this stuff because everyone and their mother is doing that right now. But I will say that it would be nice if some of this stuff sticks around because it's just kind of common sense. Okay, let's go make some safety happen. And by the way, East Coast Tony, this shirt has never been more applicable. Thank you for sending it once again. Okay, so that's rubbing on that bolt there a little bit. So let's see here. I guess we could just add some spacers in there. Okay, so we've got our bolt sticking through there, and I've just added some slightly larger nuts in there to space this thing up a bit. So in theory, that should clear now. Yeah, plenty of room now. Cool. This seems like a really bad idea. The Pronto M51's an invacare chair, and I believe these wheels are off of a Ranger or something similar. So same bolt pattern makes sense. But yeah, look at this. Yeah, so you can see the difference in the tire sizes there. I don't know what that's going to do for the geometry on the suspension. Probably not going to help anything. But I have a feeling this thing should be really fast now. And the other thing as well, I used a PC programmer at a friend's mobility shop because that chair has some weird electronics that I'm not able to program. So it's actually been tuned up a little bit for soccer, and that was with the smaller tires on there. Oh great, flies are getting in. Yeah, so bigger tires are going to amplify that effect. Now, obviously, just running nuts in there to space the wheels out with cheap grade 0 Harbor Freight bolts is probably not the best idea, but just for testing purposes, to see if this will work, it'll be fine. I got to take care of some stuff on the barbecue real quick, then I'm going to swap over the other side, and then we'll test this thing. One thing to note so far is notice how the front and rear caster wheels are no longer touching the ground. I kind of expected that, but yeah, there's definitely daylight underneath those things. Let's get the other side done and see what happens. May I remind you of this shirt that I'm wearing? I don't know what to think about this. I guess I'll wear the positioning belt. I'm going to try and sort of lean on the front of it and see how far it'll tip over and maybe raise the foot plates. Because if it tips forward far enough and those plates dig into the ground, you're not going to have a good time.
If you look down, you're going to fall. You're going to have a bad time.
So, yeah.
Hey, little dude, you got some crap right here.
Well, that's my face, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to adjust these things up quite a ways, I think. I think that's about as close as we're going to get to safety on this project. Let's try it out. Okay, so the motors don't appreciate the extra torque required to make this thing move with me sitting in it. I think I'm actually going to take the belt off because I think I'd rather be thrown out of this thing if something does happen. Whoa. Okay, so it obviously still has a soccer tune on it, but yeah, these motors, I'm not going any faster actually, because these motors can't handle the extra torque with the weight and everything. So I was really curious to see how it would work, but I think I'm gonna have to say that this didn't work. I feel like it's going about the same speed or maybe a little bit slower than it was before. I might go out in the street here and try it just for no reason, but maybe slightly downhill. But yeah, I don't think so. Well, this thing is definitely a sketchy ride. The motors don't seem to be getting warm. The other thing is too is this chair hasn't been charged in a while and it's been sitting in a cold garage. So there's a very potential chance that maybe the batteries aren't putting out enough amperage. So I'm going to put this thing out in the sun and then plug it into charge. And I mean, this chair has pretty small batteries in it. I think they are actually the U1s. Yeah, I think this thing has the U1s in it. But I know it usually takes a while for batteries to warm up. But I'm going to plug it in, let it charge for a while, and see if anything changes. But I'm thinking at this point, all I did was make a stupidly unstable chair. I figure while we're waiting for that thing to charge, we might as well do a little bit of math and figure out under ideal scenarios, if the motors weren't bogged down, what our speed gain would actually be. I've got this spreadsheet chart made here a while back, and got a few different things set up. We've got motors that are 3,200 RPM and 1,600 RPM. I'm pretty sure that chair uses 1,600 RPM motors. And then we have the gear ratios and stuff too. So I'm gonna pick one of these, change our tire size or the tire diameter, and see what our speed differential would actually be. The 3,200 RPM, we're gonna kind of ignore that. Because with the gear ratio it works out to being about the same. So right here, if we look at this line, this says drive tire diameter of 10 inches, which is what we have, and then 4.76 miles an hour. Now that chair probably goes close to 6 typically with the 10-inch tires, but we're just looking at the differential, all other things being the same. So if we skip down here to 4.76 miles an hour. If we skip down here to this row, which is 14-inch drive tires, we go from 4.75 basically to 6.5. So 2 more miles an hour in theory. Now, I know there's some variables on this spreadsheet that would make a difference, but it looks like in a best case scenario, we're only going to get like 4, 5, 6, maybe 2 miles an hour, or 1.8 or 1 3/4 miles an hour faster if everything was fine. So I probably should have done the math beforehand. For some reason I was thinking those drive tires looked a lot smaller than 10 inches, and we're only gaining 4 inches in diameter. So I guess if nothing else, this goes to show that you'd have to go really big on your tires if you want to get like some legit speed. But then you have to worry about the controller and how much amperage everything's taking and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'm still gonna let that thing finish charging for a while. I'm gonna get some lunch here, and then we're gonna hop back in it and try it again and see if it makes a difference having batteries actually charged all the way or slightly warmer, all that stuff. I don't think I have a clamp ammeter I can put on that chair at the moment. It would be cool to be able to test the amperage going to it, but I think that's a little more screwing around than I'm willing to devote to this. But yeah, anyways, I'll be back in a little bit. And that's how you break a door jam. Our little Pronto M51 is done charging out here. It was plugged in for maybe 45 minutes, and well, that tells me that the batteries were not very dead. Even though they're small, it should take longer than that to charge if it does actually need charging. By the way, it is a Pronto M51, that's the model number. It's a pretty bulletproof little chair. I mean, there isn't much you can do to these things in their stock form that's going to damage the motors or the electronics of the drive system on them. They're somewhat in between a rehab chair and a scooter chair. I mean, obviously any chair can come with van seating, pretty much, but this one has a flat seat plate on it, so you can put your own cushion on it. Happens to have a sling back, which I've never actually seen on a power chair before, so that's kind of interesting. But let's take this thing outside and see if the charging that we did makes any difference. I'm pretty sure it's going to be exactly the same as it was an hour ago, but yeah. We'll run it one more time just for science. That was actually completely unintentional, and I'm going to take off my shoe real quick and make sure my toe is okay. Yeah, looks like we're good. After thinking about it a little bit more, I've determined that the U1 batteries are very small, which obviously makes sense, and that's the battery size that this chair is running. Now, smaller batteries are going to charge faster, so even though it only charged for like 45 minutes, that may have actually been a fairly substantial amount of charging. I'm noticing now it is a lot more peppy, and it does seem to go a little faster. So, the motors don't sound like they're as labored. I mean, they don't sound happy, but I think they're working okay. So we had a couple of factors, you know, batteries being cold, not being charged all the way. We're putting a fairly decent more amount of load on them than they're designed for. And also the controller on this chair, I don't know how many amps it is, but I would guess it would be lucky to be 60 amps. I would assume it's probably one of the 50 amp MK6 style controllers, maybe even an MK5. So simply putting larger tires on your chair, depending on what kind of chair it is, may not necessarily do anything. Now also, having the spacers on these and these bigger tires exerting more force on the bearings on the output shafts are going to potentially damage things easier as well. Now, I weigh, I think, about 230 pounds last I checked, but this chair is not really, like, designed for that much weight. I'm not sure what the actual weight limit on it is, but simply swapping on larger tires won't necessarily equal more speed, and it might come with other problems, like the suspension not working and the thing tipping forward if you try to stop fast. That was a little bit sketchy a minute ago. This is one of the chairs that we use for soccer demos. We stick people in it and they can go run around, and honestly the way it's tuned, like, it responds pretty good, and the motors never get hot on it, even when you're railing on it for, like, you know, 2 hours at a soccer practice. But anyways, I'm not really sure what all this means. I'm sure there's math involved. Probably not the best idea in the world, but I just wanted to try jamming larger tires on a small chair for absolutely no reason. Now, another thing to note is chairs with smaller motors do not have a lot of, like, reserve, as it were, for extra torque and whatnot. If you were to try this on a chair that was running different motors, for example, this C300 and my steampunk chair, oops, fall off the counter there, I've swapped on the newer style F3 motors. Now, they are only 2-pole motors, but they are very powerful and have a lot of torque. Something like that probably wouldn't care nearly as much. In fact, there's another project with the steampunk chair. I still haven't taken that thing apart after the crash. I'm still going to be doing that, probably in conjunction with the second part or the conclusion to the WC19 video. I have gotten some information, and Quantum is going to be sort of replacing my chair, but I'll talk about that in that video when it actually happens. But I'm planning on the version 2 of that chair. I'm actually going to be putting some larger air-filled tires on it. And the motors on that thing won't care at all. If you're using a chair that has big, beefy 4-pole motors, probably won't care much at all either. And also that style of motor has much bigger bearings and beefier components in it, so it can handle a little bit of extra load of sizing up your tires. But typically also most of those larger high torque applications are going to already have the 14-inch tires on them. So I don't know what this really proves, probably nothing, but it's just something I wanted to try out for no particular reason. I was always curious. Why are there always leaf blowers when I'm trying to do something outside?